Okay, we made the angle for the top of the car yesterday, and then today we're going to do the parts we're going to work on next are these little door latches. And on the bill of material I listed out all the parts for the car and the materials, but I forgot to mention that we need some 20,000 styrene. You probably could make these out of 10,000 styrene off that black sheet, but they might be just a little bit on the flimsy side and kind of hard to work with. So I actually make these out of 20,000 styrene, and I've just cut off a small strip of the 20,000 styrene, and the strip is it's 0.18 high, and then we're going to cut off little squares that are 0.20 wide. So if you have a dial caliper, go ahead and set it to 0.18, go on the end of a sheet, and then cut a strip of this, and then we'll take our Northwest Shortline chopper, set your dial caliper to 0.2, this is pretty hard to get in here when it's this tight. And now before we cut any of the pieces though, you have to do one other thing. You need to come back to the dial caliper and set this to be 0.085. What I do is I take this strip that I made, clean the burrs off it, just cut it off the end of a sheet, and we're just going to run a light line all the way down the length of it. So I can get that line to show up there. And now we're going to take and I'll just cut one of these, but we're going to actually need 8 of these. I'm going to cut a little square, and you'll be able to see that line that you should be able to see that line. See that line that we put on there? Okay, what we're going to have to do with that is set that on a workbench and take an X-Acto knife with a sharp tip. You gotta remember which side's which here. And you're going to cut about, I don't know, I'm going to say about 2/3 of the way in. It's not really that important yet. And then we're going to cut, so basically what you're making is a little L, and this little piece that's left over should be the 0.085. And what that's going to make is it's going to make this little it's going to make the little dog latch, or a starter door latch on the bottom of the car, and on this end of the L here we're going to drill a 30,000ths hole. It's pretty important that that hole be in the exact same spot on the piece for all of them, because it'll make the rod be straight across in there, And it's really important, mostly from this corner, this inside corner, how far down it is and how far back. And there's probably no easy way to do that consistently if you don't have a jig. And this jig is really actually pretty easy to make. It's just a piece of 20 thousandths styrene here that's cut square in the corner with just some scrap. I don't know, that looks like it's about 60 thousandths styrene on top. And then this piece is just a piece of styrene that's only glued back here, so it kind of makes a spring. And what that does is allows me to stick this piece in here. And I push it tight in there. Excuse me. And the and this spring holds it tight into the corner. And that hole works for so I drilled a hole that was measured from that corner and down, and now no matter how different I make these parts on the outside edges here, that hole will always be consistent on every part because it's being located from this edge and from this corner. And so you have to do that and make 8 of these. And I suppose there is a way you could make them without a jig if you were just really careful and slow, but you know, back when I made this jig, I envisioned making a lot of these, and after just making one car of these by hand and how crooked that rod was underneath there when I put it in there, I just couldn't think of any other way to do it other than with a jig. And then after a few of those, I ended up having a sheet laser cut of all the detail parts on here. And so all my cars, I make them from these, but because we're kind of going through this whole thing together, how you could do it if you didn't have all this stuff, I'm going to go ahead and make them all for this car out of this styrene. I'd highly encourage you to make this jig if you have scraps of styrene around, to make these parts. It's going to go a lot easier. You're going to have a lot more consistent parts. Once you get this L cut out, once you get 8 of them cut out, I just take up pliers and I just kind of grab them there, grab it in the corner. See that without it being blurry. Just take a file, and then I just go ahead and file a radius. Actually, first of all, you got to cut a diagonal line. So I cut a diagonal line. This would be for when the door comes down, it would hit this, forcing this to open up. Now what we'll do is we'll go back to our pliers here. Grab it in the corner, and then go ahead and just file a nice radius on that. So you should be making a latch that looks like that. Now if you want to round off these back corners back here where you drilled the holes, that's okay. You really don't. It's hard to see them, but they really would be rounded off in there too. So we're going to have to go ahead and make, like I said, 8 of these. It's going to take a little bit of time. But this is probably one of the last really hard parts to make on the car. So So we'll come back when I have made 8 of those. Okay, well there they are. There's my 8 door latches. So we're going to set those aside in a safe place that we can use them here after we get the car weathered up. So